Ladies and gentlemen, there is a Marcus Bach who belongs to the world at large. And I will to believe there is a Marcus Bach who belongs to the world of chiropractic. To the world at large, he is Marcus Bach, M.A., Ph.D., a name in who's who in America, a member of the faculty of the University of Iowa, author of They Have Found a Faith and other widely read books and magazines, and currently the author of The Will to Believe, which apparently is going to make its way in the list of bestsellers. On the outside, they speak of him as a world traveler, as a researcher extraordinary, and they tell how people in quandaries respond to his techniques for better living. I think the New York Times sums it up very well when they say, "Respect and sincerity are secrets of Dr. Bach's success. With the indefatigable energy of an explorer and the zest and eagerness of a skilled reporter, he has discovered the springs and stimuli that rouse men and women to follow a faith." When I say that there is a Marcus Bach who belongs to the world of chiropractic, most of you know precisely what I have in mind. That he has recognized the validity of the claims made by our philosophy and has not hesitated to say so. A man who has publicly said, "If I had my life to live over, I'd become a chiropractor." A man who takes adjustments and doesn't care who knows it. Who has recently, despite much resistance, completed a series of public relations television movies under the sponsorship of chiropractors that some of you have already seen and some of you have a right to look forward to seeing. He has talked to numberless chiropractic audiences. He is a man who firmly believes in innate intelligence, and not least, he is one who is a close personal friend of our leader and who has been outspoken in his praise of his accomplishments. I only wish, Marcus Bach, that I had the words to express to you, in behalf of our profession, how deeply grateful we are to you. And ladies and gentlemen, how incredibly fortunate, aren't we, to have such a distinguished friend here to act as our master of ceremonies and to speak out of his mind on Operation 75. Dr. Bach, the gavel is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hender, PJ, Mr. Mayor, platform guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'm glad this introduction is on about 60 tape recorders. I certainly want to get a copy of it sometime. Many people won't believe that such nice things were actually said about me. This emceeing a program is something new to me. Heavens knows I don't want to quote Adley or anyone tonight, but he did say one thing at a political rally that he was called upon to impromptu MC. He said, "I feel very much like the mosquito that got into a nudist camp. I don't know quite where to begin." But I do know that tonight we have come here to try to show in some way our honor and respect for B.J. and to enjoy this birthday party with him. And I'm sure that the sentiments of all of us have already been expressed in the very fine words of the Mayor of Davenport. I would just like to add that though we are here tonight to pay this tribute, and we may be able to do so, there is an unseen audience with us here in spirit this evening, countless millions who know of B.J. through chiropractic. And I'm thinking that joining us tonight in this observance is a little girl I knew who was able to walk because she went to a chiropractor. I know a woman who despaired of ever being well, who got well because she took chiropractic adjustments. And I'm thinking of chiropractors I have met in many parts of the world, particularly not so long ago, one by the name of Joshua Hallman down in Pretoria, South Africa, who when I came into his office, he had a picture of B.J. in the hallway, surrounded and adored with some of B.J.'s famous sayings. And then there are many students to whom PSC is their beloved alma mater. And they are with us tonight, too. And they are saying with you and me, with as deep a sincerity as Herb Hender spoke of my being here, happy birthday to B.J. Now, every town has, of any size, has a Chamber of Commerce. And this is true of Davenport. And tonight we are honored to have with us the Executive Secretary of the Davenport Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Lloyd F. Lewis, whom I'd like to introduce at this time. Mr. Lewis.
Good evening, friends, the chiropractors, friends, and every one of us that are fond of B.J. We all are. I've known B.J. many years, not as intimately as some, but have come to admire him immensely and think a lot of him. Unfortunately, our president, Mr. Jakey, is not in the city this evening. I know if he could have been here, he would have been glad and liked to have done the honor and the privilege I am about to perform. I think what I am going to present to B.J. probably will tell all that I possibly could in the time allotted me. B.J., would you be so gracious as to come forward? On behalf of the Davenport Chamber of Commerce, of which you have long been a valued member, we have a token of our esteem here. Let me say this. I feel that I could add not only the Davenport Chamber, if I may, but it could come from everybody. Now, with your permission, sir, I'm going to ask you to open it, and then I would like to read it to the folks gathered here. I think that will tell the sentiments about as well. Well, we have a tough one here, do we not? It's always that way when you open one of these. They seem to be rather difficult to get open. I don't know. And always we have... Isn't that the truth? There we have it. Sorry, go ahead. My, we're having a difficult time. They really wrapped this. My goodness.
Need Houdini to get into this t-shirt.
There, finally we get down to it. Thank you, if you will, please. Now, BJ, if you will just stand here with me, I'm going to read this to you all. Salute to BJ. Mindful that Davenport's development is dependent upon the interest of many citizens who generously volunteer their energies and talents, we pause to express our thanks and appreciation to Dr. B.J. Palmer in recognition of the important contributions he has made to the general welfare and progress of the community, and for the national and international distinction he has gained for Davenport. Our congratulations on the occasion of his 75th birthday and best wishes for his continued good health, happiness, and prosperity. Done at Davenport, Iowa, this 26th day of August, 1956, signed by Harold T. Jakey, President of the Davenport Chamber, and attested by yours truly, B.J., as the mayor and others so have ably expressed it. Yes. You bet.
I suppose every birthday party has a number of telegrams and greetings, and I'm going to read a few of these now that have been selected from a great many that have been received today. I'm going to put on my glasses to read these because I was with a minister not so long ago, and I said, "Don't you need glasses to read the text?" And he said, "No." He was reading out of the 20th chapter of the book of Revelation. And when he came to the line that said, "I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end," he read, "I am the Alfalfa and the Omega." When he got home, I told him I thought he was reading out of Timothy. Well, anyhow, here are some telegrams. Dear B.J., I don't know of any place that I would rather be with you tonight than in Davenport on the occasion of the contribution of your 75th birthday. You have made a momentous celebration to broadcasting and more lately television, and the industry generally, and the people in your service area more particularly will always be indebted to you for the great public service that you have rendered. My sincerest regards, Niles Trammell, former president of NBC. It is a distinct pleasure to congratulate you on your 75th birthday on behalf of the National Broadcasting Company, and I want to say, B.J., it has been an honor to be affiliated with the Central Broadcasting Company radio and television stations for a large portion of those 75 years. Continued best wishes for every success, Bob Sarnoff. Glad to see that in true B.J. Palmer enterprising fashion, you are producing your own form of spectacular with your 75th birthday. Says Pat Weaver, I want to extend my very best wishes for many, many more years of success. Chairman of the Board, National Broadcasting Company. Some Saratoga friends, B.J., Tracy and Ollie Miner, say our heartiest congratulations on your 75th birthday anniversary and our sincerest wishes that you enjoy many more happy and fruitful years. We are so happy to call you our friend. Certainly you have our deepest admiration and respect. We are looking forward to seeing you in Sarasota again. Most sincerely, Tracy and Ollie Miner. Here's a birthday greeting. Some more friends, Herb, Harriet, Bob, and Kathleen Horn. Greetings from Nancy and Ronnie Regan. Dear B.J., deeply regret we cannot be with you tonight. Congratulations and many more happy returns. Now here's a telegram and a greeting from Frank E. Dean, Director, Columbia Institute of Chiropractic. My dear B.J., I personally and Columbia graduates from 4 corners of the globe wish you a happy, happy birthday. Many people have their 75th birthday today. None of them have accomplished as much for humanity at large as you. I remember at one time you supported most of the families of chiropractors who were incarcerated. I wonder how many of them came to you today to express their gratitude, reverence, and loyalty. We hope that you will be with us for at least another 75th celebration. Innate must have given you the secret of the fountain of youth, for you look younger and younger each year. Your humble disciple, Frank E. Dean. So those are the telegrams, and I think we should give them a little round of applause. Now there's a real special guest on the platform tonight, Dr. Billy Brownell, Secretary-Treasurer of the Circus Hall of Fame of Sarasota, Florida. I've always wanted to meet a good circus man, and here he is, Dr. Billy Brownell.
Thank you, Dr. Bach and B.J. and fellow chiropractors. I think all of you know what an avid circus fan B.J. is. And when he decided to have a winter home, he chose Sarasota in Florida, which is the circus city. It is the winter quarters of 3 circuses now. The big one, Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey, Christani's, and Clyde Beatty's. When I decided to retire 4 years ago, I bought a home a block from B.J., and we see each other every day during the winter. And it's not unusual at all to walk over to his place and find Felix Adler or Emmett Kelly or a bunch of the Nate Eagles midgets in his house having a good gab fest. We have a lot of fun because all of the circus folks know B.J. You go out to circus quarters and it's hi B.J. from the time you enter until you leave. About a year ago, we formed a $500,000 attraction in Florida, in Sarasota, called the Circus Hall of Fame. And it was to that organization that B.J. donated the bandwagon. It now occupies a large plate glass room fronting on the Tamiami Trail and is the center attraction where anybody going up and down from on the west coast of Florida is bound to see. And it has the Donner's name on there so that the thousands that have already seen it and the uncounted thousands that will see it in the future years will recognize that it is our B.J. who gave the bandwagon to the Circus Hall of Fame. So his name will be perpetuated for many, many years there because of that. And when B.J. was elected to the board of directors, and so was I, and made secretary-treasurer of the organization. And when they found out B.J. was having a 75th reunion, and also Horns Cars of Yesterday, which is a neighboring attraction of ours, they said, we want to get in on it. And so, B.J., in tribute and esteem they hold you, we have a little something here that every staff member of the Circus Hall of Fame has signed, and every employee, and all the staff members of Horns Cars. And I'd like to present it to you. Thank you, folks.
I don't know whether you all could see that, for Colonel B.J. Palmer, with all best wishes for a happy birthday from the gang at Circus Hall. That's really fine. You want to get it on tape recording? Now, we have some special guests up here on the platform, and it's my privilege and my pleasure to introduce them to you at this time. Dr. Carl S. Cleveland, Senior, President of the Cleveland Chiropractic College of Los Angeles. Would you stand, please? I'll tell you. Okay. Dr. Vinton Logan, President of the Logan Basic College Chiropractic, St. Louis. Dr. Carl S. Cleveland, Jr., President of the Cleveland Chiropractic College of Kansas City. Dr. Ernest C. Napolitano, Dean of the Atlantic States Chiropractic Institute, Brooklyn. Now, we also have two representatives of B.J. Palmer Enterprises. Mr. Ralph Evans, Executive Vice President. Dr. Dave Palmer, Vice President and Treasurer. I want especially to introduce his lovely wife, Agnes. And their three children. The three children will be introduced a little later, where you can see them. Thank you all very much. And now I would like to reintroduce Dr. Carl S. Cleveland, Jr., who has a special function to perform at this time. Dr. Cleveland.
Thank you, Dr. Bach. B.J. As you know, B.J. is a much honored man. He has been taken into Indian tribes. He has been taken into various clubs and lodges. He has been given trophies and plaques and awards and gifts. And I can't help but think, when I view these things, how very, very small they are in comparison to what this one man has given to humanity. And I am not alone in that thought. The North American Association of Chiropractic Schools and Colleges go along with that thought. And this association of colleges that are, the administrators of which are used to the thrill that they receive when they award degrees to each new doctor, chiropractic. This association feels that what greater award could be given to a man that has given so much to all of humanity than a humanities award. So this North American Association of Chiropractic Schools and Colleges put their heads together, and I think have given the only award of this kind that the whole North American Association of Colleges has ever given. And at this time, I would like to show you and to read to you the award. May I read? The North American Association of Chiropractic Schools and Colleges Humanities Award to B.J. Palmer, D.C., Ph.C., developer of chiropractic. It says, for adding millions of years to millions of lives.
in witness whereof the seal of our respective colleges and our signatures are herewith affixed this 26th day of August, 1956. We want to give this to you with all of our hearts. There wouldn't be one of us here if it had not been for this man.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure that all of you know that this is a real great honor for me to say a few words tonight in keeping with this wonderful occasion, which I'm sure has already come very close to the heart of many of you. In my particular field, which is research and writing in the area of what people believe and what men live by, I have had an opportunity to meet a number of men who are great in my little red book. I remember when I was a kid, I met a great man. His name was Frank Lloyd Wright, a very eminent architect of the time. I met him when I was giving violin lessons in a little town of Spring Green, Wisconsin, or taking violin lessons there. And walking one day, intruding on his beautiful estate at Taliesin, which some of you have seen, he came out to talk to me and invited me in, though I was just a kid, to play a violin solo in his very beautiful and at that time ultra-modernistic home. He was an iconoclast. He was a man who went against many of the traditions of his time to express himself creatively in the field of art, who had the audacity one time when speaking at the University of Iowa to refer to the old Capitol as a monstrosity architecturally. I saw by this morning's Des Moines Tribune a story on Frank Lloyd Wright saying that he is now designing a building a mile high for the city of Chicago. He is 87 years old. Another great man that I met a little later was Lloyd Douglas. I never forget Lloyd Douglas because it was he who inspired me to write. Sitting with him over a dinner table out at the Amana colonies one time, and I was telling him about the Amanas, he said, "Why don't you write a book?" And I said, "I wish I knew how." And he said, "Write the way you speak." A little later, I met a man by the name of Kagawa, a Japanese. Kagawa was a great man. Going blind, he came to America to study arts and sciences and to take them back, to spiritualize them for his people who did not have the privileges that many of us have. I will always remember my audience with Pope Pius XII. Some of you who are Catholic and you who happen to be Protestant, I'm sure you know that this was a great moment in my life, to have a special audience with the present Pope, whom they call the Pope of Peace, and who pressed when I left into my hand a medal which I cherish very much, though I happen to be a Protestant. Within the past few months, I had a meeting with Mr. Nehru over in India, and this was a great moment for me. And not too long ago, I visited in French Equatorial Africa the great Albert Schweitzer, about whom I'm sure many of you have heard, and whose writings may be familiar to some of you. I'll always remember when he came down the jungle path to meet the dugout canoe, which had brought me deep into this jungle area. And there at his hospital compound, he shook hands with me and said that he was very glad that I had come. I stand very humble in the presence of great men. Along the way of life, I met another man who was always exciting in his life and exacting in his demands of himself and of others. He seemed to me to be a man with a cosmic consciousness, a man who sees not with his eyes or with his mind, but with his spirit. I remember where I met him, friends, and where I heard him for the first time. It was on this very spot, I suppose, more than 20 years ago. And I was sitting where many of you are sitting out here in this darkened tent. In this crowded lyceum, I saw a man come up to a platform like this, and I heard him speak. The memory of that address never left me. Something touched me at that moment, and a little bit of the greatness seemed to rub off on me. What makes a person great, anyhow? There are three qualities that I seem to have found universal in the great men that I have met. And these three qualities I want to mention to you. Now, there's a woman on the platform who is really the impetus and the inspiration behind this evening. I'll introduce her a little later. But when she wrote me about coming here, she said I could have 10 minutes for my talk. I protested and asked for 12. She said she'd give me 12. So that makes 22. And that's what I'm going to take, 22. And I want to tell you, and I know that she realizes this full well, I came 2,000 miles to be here tonight. And there are very few men that I come that far for, and only one woman. And I don't mean the one on the platform either. Now, the first quality in greatness is this. A great man always sublimates his talents in one big, basic, driving, all-consuming idea. And that idea is dedicated to human service. Now, if you want to, just for a moment, check yourself and see where you stand in this first ingredient or credential of greatness. A person takes his talents and he sublimates them in a big idea which has as its aim the service of mankind. Where do you stand in that? Well, I'll tell you where B.J. stands. As I see the picture, and I'm speaking just for myself, and my views in no way reflect the views of my sponsors. B.J. popularized many sayings, and one of these is very familiar to all of us. Get the idea, all else follows. Now, it seems to me that the idea that B.J. got was that it was time that men and women should have access to a healing art which would help them when they are sick and keep them well, or help to keep them well when they are healthy. And he felt that the big idea had as its aim at that time the fact that it should be revealed and sold to the world, since it had been discovered by D.D. Palmer. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to believe me, I did not come here to eulogize, but I would just like to underscore what Dr. Cleveland Jr. said in his one remark. He said that but for B.J., we would not be here tonight, or that's what he inferred. And that's just the way I feel about it. I feel that but for the sublimation of B.J.'s talents in this one big idea, none of us would be here. And many of you out there in the audience would never have found your place in life, and the careers that you have would not be yours. B.J. brought all of his talents to bear upon this one big idea, and chiropractic followed. Think for a moment. If some of us had his ability as an executive and a businessman, we would probably settle to be the head of some corporation or enterprise. If we had his talent as a public speaker, we'd settle for the lecture platform. If we had his special flair for writing, he presented me tonight with, I believe, his 32nd and 33rd book. If we had that flair for writing, we'd probably hie ourselves away to some mountain retreat and make a living pounding out a typewriter. But you know what B.J. did. He took these talents and he sublimated them to bear upon the business at hand, chiropractic. And it seems to me he did it in a day that many of you have perhaps forgotten, and some of you who are younger have never heard about. A day in which chiropractic, by the people generally, and by the medical profession in particular, was ridiculed and looked upon as a cult, and many people looked upon it as a phony. A day in which pills and promises had a higher testimonial than evidences of chiropractic healing. A day in which people laughed at many of you who came to a struggling school up here on Brady Hill. I had a letter from B.J. a couple of weeks ago. It came hard on the heels of what Dr. Hender has referred to as this TV series that I've been working at, and for which I had been criticized in some quarters. And B.J.'s letter was written in such a typically B.J. idiom that it gave me quite a thrill. This is what he said. He said, "Any man worthwhile who does a worthwhile job in a worthwhile cause is never permitted to do so without some has-been, has-wasser, stick in the mud, who still believes in oxen, mules, kerosene lamps, and buggies, trying to reduce you down to size by traducing you with criticism, irony, and abuse. But when a man has fought the battle with himself and has come to terms with truth as he finds it, he is justified in carrying on. Write it on your heart. You can, you must, you will." It is that kind of a man that we are honoring in this testimonial birthday party tonight. A great man because he took his talents and sublimated them in the big idea. It was not written in his books alone, nor was it recorded to be dramatic in the stone and steel and the beauty of these buildings, but it was written in his spirit and transmitted to your spirit and mine. And in his greatness, all of us have found the revelation of a little greater greatness in ourselves. Quality number 2. A great man always has a philosophy of life. And this philosophy is not only made articulate in words, but is lived out in the man's life. A few months ago, I was in India, and I had an opportunity to walk with India's greatest man, Vinoba Bhave. Vinoba Bhave never rides, he always walks. He is a living example of the philosophy of stewardship, and he has persuaded the landowners of India to divide their land with the poor. This was a very startling man of 74 years of age, and I walked with him one morning. You have to transmute yourself to India to get the whole feeling of this. You know, every sixth child in the world is an Indian. Some of you who have 5 children, you might want to consider that. And walking among these millions, as B.J. has also done, I had a feeling for the greatness of this man. He had a philosophy. I wrote a story once about George Washington Carver. He had a philosophy too of the revelation of God in man. I remember writing in this story the lovely little anecdote about George Washington Carver. He was the man, you know, who made the humble peanut very famous and started a great many peanut industries. And once a friend came to him, and George Washington Carver was reading the Bible, and the friend said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I'm studying about peanuts." The friend said, "No, you're not. You're reading the Bible." Mr. Carver said, "No, I'm reading how God reveals himself to men. And to me, he reveals himself to men through peanuts." I wrote a story about another man. We call him B.J. I called my little story, he calls it innate. The story was told not because I wrote it, but because it was the insight into the philosophy of a man. I learned a little more about innate tonight when I had supper with B.J. But I'll tell you what I believe he sees in the philosophy of innate. Innate, according to B.J., is God, actively at work in your life and mine. A man does not have to entreat God. A man does not force God. A man does not even pray and implore God. A man simply opens his life to God's revelation in his life, and that's innate. Innateness, I guess, is God coming through on man's right of way. Innateness is divine intelligence flooding the clear channel between God and man. Innate to B.J. is the life force that operates 24 hours a day, that cannot be tricked, that cannot be deluded, that reveals God's plan to him and to other men. Innate can be shut off through negative thinking. It can be shut off through sluggish thinking and through the will not to believe. Innate can be made to flow through positive thinking, through enthusiastic response, and through the will to believe. And when I mention the will to believe, I'm not mentioning the title of my new book, which sells for $3.95. In fact, I sent B.J. a pre-publication copy of this new book, and you know what he said? He said you shouldn't call it Will to Believe at all. You should call it The Will to Know. And I've thought about that a good deal since then. Innate, according to B.J., helps a little bit, quite a bit, in the revelation of Jesus to men. It means taking the words of Jesus at face value and actually making God a partner in your life. Jesus, B.J. once said, healed. Others too can heal if they work in accordance with divine law. Listen to these beautiful words. I think they're beautiful anyhow. B.J.'s words, Jesus took the small things of life and he made them large. He took the large things of life and he made them larger. Jesus spoke in language so simple that few people understood him then and few people understand him now. Jesus wanted people, though tied to their illusions, would be able to escape from their illusions and catch his vision of divine service. Great man has a philosophy of life. B.J.'s philosophy is innate. A genius, he once said, is nothing more than one who opens the gate to the interpenetration of innate. Awaken the germs of genius in a man, and he will do something worthwhile. You remember the saying, it must be written on some wall nearby here, a determined soul with a rusty monkey wrench can do more than a loafer with a machine shop. You know what? I think one thing that makes B.J.'s philosophy great is that he has demonstrated it in his life. My best friends, you know, he thinks, are those who throw me upon myself. When business is tough, when money is close, when competition is keen, it is then that we have an opportunity to reveal the quality and the stuff we are made of. A man never knows what he can do until he is placed in the squeeze. When it is a matter of life or death, he comes through with life. There are hidden resources within us, he said long before the days of Norman Vincent Peale. Resources that we can call upon. Welcome competition. Smile and shake hands with a man who makes things hard for you. He is your friend. Innate, then, is God in human beings. It is good in human beings. It is divine intelligence in human beings. Innate is ever within you, ready to communicate with you. And when innate communicates with you, you are in tune with the infinite. The third quality that makes a man great, as I see the picture anyhow, is this. A great man always does a little bit more than life or his job expect of him. I think some of the most beautiful words bearing upon this particular idea has to do with the idea of a man being a partner with God in this business of life. I wish that you could sort of write on your hearts these few words that I want to mention to you. You know, when God made the earth, he could have finished it, but he didn't. He left it as raw materials to tantalize us, to set us thinking and investigating and exploring, and therein lies life's greatest meaning. God gave us an unfinished world so that we might share with him in the joy and satisfaction of creation. He left the electricity in the clouds, and he left the oil in the rock and the aluminum in the clay. He left the rivers to be bridged and the mountains to be trailed. He left the forests to be felled and the cities to be built. He left the minerals to be mined and the diamonds to be cut. Maybe he left pain in the world so that you and I might learn how to alleviate pain. Maybe he left poverty so that we might know what it is like to help people have affluence. This I know, that God left most of nature's beauties to be discovered and most of nature's mysteries to be solved, so that we might be partners with him in the progress of ideas. A man is great if he works in harmony with God and does a little bit more than the world and life expect of him. My most memorable remembrance of Albert Schweitzer is that one day I walked with him through a jungle path to a leper colony. And suddenly this man, he's 80 years old now, he stopped. And we were confronted by an orange grove planted in the midst of the jungle. and the oranges were hanging thick and green on the trees. And Albert Schweitzer stopped and in German said to me, "You know, a man begins to feel old when he sees the trees that he has planted bearing fruit." I said, "Yes, but you're going to have a good orange crop." And he said, "I'll be fortunate if I get a dozen of those oranges." I said, "Why? What'll happen to them?" He said, "They'll all be stolen from me." I said, "Who will steal them?" He said, "The natives." I said, "You mean the people whom you've helped and healed, they'll steal your oranges?" He said, "That's right." I said, "Why do they do it?" He said, "That's a good question." He said, "I asked one man, 'Why do you steal my oranges?' And the man said, 'Well, if I don't steal them, somebody else will.'" As BJ stands tonight on the vantage point of 75 years, he must certainly also realize that many of the trees that he has planted have grown up and are bearing fruit. And I dare say that many of his oranges were also stolen. But he still continues to walk on, giving the world a little bit more than the world and life expect of him. Ladies and gentlemen, B.J. Palmer is one of our great contemporaries. But when you have said that, you have told only a third of the story. The other two-thirds is that he was a great contemporary a generation ago and a great contemporary of the generation before that. Some men are great for just a little while. Others have greatness thrust upon them. B.J. gave greatness a continuity. It was he who pioneered in chiropractic. It was he who advanced chiropractic. And it is he who sustains chiropractic. And I am speaking tonight of B.J. as a chiropractor. And I realize that there have been other very important contributions in this field. There are men who have written about chiropractic. There are men who have started chiropractic schools and colleges. But whenever I think of chiropractic and think of Mr. Chiropractor, I think of B.J. And I'll tell you why. Because he stands for everything that chiropractic stands for. And what is this everything? I'll tell you what it is. It is the courage to see that chiropractic is honorably practiced. It is the faith in chiropractic results. It is the wisdom to improve chiropractic skills. It is the technique to sell chiropractic to the world. And it is the strength to fight chiropractic's battles. So, this required a multiple personality, and B.J. is it. Love him or leave him. Envy him, adore him, criticize him. Here he is on his 75th birthday, and we are trying somehow to express our gratitude to him. And if at times there are people who feel somewhat concerned that he may have given the impression that he was the recipient of a special revelation, all I can say is, well, he was. And I hope that he may continue to have other revelations and give them to the world. And I want to say tonight, happy birthday, B.J., and God bless you evermore. Thank you. Well, now we come to a very lovely part of this evening's program. my part is just about over. You know, I said some people are great for a little moment. I don't know how many of you were watching the TV program of the Democratic Convention, but something happened there that gave me an idea of how transient greatness is. The TV camera was focused on a woman in the audience. She happened to be quite pregnant. She was wearing a button that said, "Harriman is the man," but and I thought, greatness is just, to most people, just a passing thing. But now I want to present to B.J., many presentations have been made, but I want to present to B.J. something that is part of your appreciation and mine, and part of your testimonial and mine. I'd like to show all of you in the audience this lovely birthday book with a foreword beautifully written by Dr. Evans, and replete with the hundreds and perhaps thousands of names who have shared in this birthday night. B.J., I'm not going to ask you to stand, but I'm going to put the book up here, and I'm sure that this is something that you will treasure with all your heart among the many treasures you have received throughout your lifetime. And now I want to present three charming ladies. And I'd like to have them come up here. Bonnie, Jenny, and Vicki. Bonnie, Jenny, and Vicki, the daughters of Dr. and Mrs. Dave Palmer. I wish I could. And they have a real special act that they're going to perform. Get it. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Let's sing it once more. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear B.J. Happy birthday to you.
It is better to light one candle than to curse the darkness.
I had met Mrs. Edith Harbett only more or less by remote control, by letters and telephone calls, but I realized that behind this so-called Operation 75, there was a driving, dynamic spirit. And tonight, I realized that this sort of prognostication of mine was really true when I met Mrs. Harbett. I am sure that all of us feel very keenly and deeply all that she has done to make this night this great success and give it this overtone of beauty and spirituality that we felt this evening. I am very happy now to present her to this large and very representative group, Mrs. Harvett.
I hope my husband got that on a tape recorder. Dr. Bach, members of the chiropractic profession, students, patients, business associates, and friends of our BJ. First of all, I would like to thank you for the opportunity of acting on your behalf this evening. Without you, this moment would not be possible. We know that, and we thank you. Naturally, during the weeks and months of preparation up to this coming event and to this very moment, many words have come to mind which I might say in praise and glorification of our BJ. Actually, however, it is not mine to say, but to do that for which we have come here. I don't know about BJ, but I do know that we, you and I, have been eagerly awaiting this moment for some time. Is that not right? And so, with your permission, if BJ will come forward. They went to him, but he has to come to me. BJ, it is with a great deal of pride in your personal achievements, a very real appreciation of the enrichment which you have given to our lives, and a deep love for you personally, that we, those who are represented in your birthday book, wish to extend these small tokens of our affection on your 75th birthday. First, I would like to present you with our check in the amount of $3,750, no strings attached, for your birthday. Secondly, this certificate of title, this key to what we know is real beauty and will provide pleasure and comfort for you on the highways. And now, into the spotlight, your Goddess Gold Fleetwood Cadillac, complete with air conditioning and all the gadgets we know you will enjoy. Happy birthday, BJ.
You like to greet from here.
I find myself almost flabbergasted. This afternoon, talking to Marcus Bach over at the house, he said, "B.J., you should write your biography." And I said, "I'd like to, Marcus, but I'm too damn busy making it." I guess that'll have to be a job for somebody else. We're still in the process of making. Man has not yet arrived. I looked at this cake. You know what I thought I would do with this cake? I think we'll take it down to the cafeteria where all of you will eat while you're here. And then we won't give you any of the cake, notwithstanding, but we'll take it out to the picnic on Thursday and give it to the kids. Because they are the future chiropractors of America. You know, I find myself in no state of mind to collect our thoughts to thank you. We've been overwhelmed with your tributes. I would like to ask you to forgive me if we beg off tonight. However, we do have an Horatio Alger story that we've been writing for several months. It's the kind of a story that I think you want. It's what Marcus Bach suggested as a biography. And if it's agreeable with you, I'll give you that story tomorrow night at 7:30. It's one of the books that we've been writing, and I call it The Story of the Unknown Man, as told by the known man who knows the unknown man that has lived intimately with him for 75 years. I think from the title you can get that it's a most revealing story, a most intimate story, one of the stories that a private individual rarely talks to an audience about. But I feel the time has arrived when that kind of a story must be told. And I don't know any better time, nor place, nor people than you to give it to. Because you have proved tonight that you understand more than you did a few years ago. This story that you will hear tomorrow night is one that you will never forget. It'll be a story that you'll remember parts of it, all your life. It's one of those real heartthrobs that comes from the heart. Those of you who will be fortunate enough to take it in tapes will play it again and again here and there. It'll become a classic in the art of literature and in chiropractic. So tomorrow night at 7:30 prompt, we'll be here to give you the greatest story I think we've ever written, and we've written a lot of it. I look at this check. I've got a purpose for that check. I know what I'm going to do with it. And I haven't asked Ralph Evans whether I could or not. I can say to Ralph Evans, "Poof, poof for you." I'm going to do what I want to do with it. I ain't going to tell him either. But be that as it may, please bear with me tonight if I don't say more. My heart is full. It's the tribute that comes from 75 years of sacrifice, struggling, giving, trying to do one great objective. But I'll tell you more about it tomorrow night. Meanwhile, my innate blesses your innate. And let me close with that thought that I think is so pregnant with a great deal of thought we never know, how far-reaching. Something we may think, say, or do today may and will affect the lives of millions tomorrow. Now, you know, and I wish I could just sneak out of here and get over there in that car and back out of here and go right down to Sarasota. Well, I'm not going to. I'm not going to. Thank you all from the bottom of my heart. It shows, well, what's the use? Good night.